welcome back to Farm Wife Life. It has been a while since we have done a video, so I figured we might as well kick this off again and start off with this beginning of canning season. And for me, the first thing I can every single year is rhubarb jelly. Rhubarb up here in North Dakota is one of the first plants that comes up every year. It's a perennial, we know we're gonna have it. Rhubarb jelly is probably one of the easiest things you could do to can. If you want to start getting into canning, I would suggest giving this recipe a try because it's super basic, super easy to can, and it's so good. And I mean, it's a jelly, so there's lots of sugar in it, so who wouldn't like that? So let's get started. I already went out to my rhubarb patch and picked some rhubarb. It is like 90 degrees out, so it is super hot outside, so that is about all we're doing today in the garden. So let's get going. I will show you how easy this is, and come along. Okay, so first up for the rhubarb, you're gonna need 3.5 pounds. As you can see, I already washed and cut off the ends of all my rhubarb here. You really don't have to chop these up very small because these are gonna cook down, and they cook down very easily. Okay, quick brag moment. Look at how red and beautiful my rhubarb is. If yours is a little more green, that's okay. Your jelly just probably won't turn out as pink as mine. Okay, this is where I measure my 3.5 pounds. I ended up being a little short because my rhubarb was still pretty small out in the patch, so I really struggled getting pieces that were big enough. So you definitely want to get as close to that 3.5 pound mark as you can. Okay, to get started, we're going to take that rhubarb and add a quart of water. We're going to bring that up to a boil and then turn it down and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. Okay, and this is why I said you didn't have to chop your rhubarb very small, because this breaks down so fast. After the 20 minutes, you can take it off the heat and let it strain out. I just use a fine mesh strainer. I know you can use cheesecloth, but I don't have a problem using just the strainer this way. Okay, so one thing I should have mentioned where I get this recipe from. This is from the latest fall canning cookbook. I will leave a link down below if you guys want to purchase this cookbook from Amazon. I believe this is the latest one. If they have a new one, it must have just come out in the last year or two, but this is the latest one that I believe, and this is where the rhubarb recipe is out of. In the recipe, it does say to let it strain for 2 hours. I'm impatient. I don't like to wait 2 hours. So it's been about an hour, and let me show you what I do. I let it strain for about an hour, and then I stir it up. You know, I have it in the mesh strainer, so we stir it and I kind of press it through the strainer to try to get more liquid out of it. And then I'll let it sit for a few more minutes. So I definitely don't do the full 2 hours because, let's be real, who has time for that? So let me show you what I do. So here it is draining. I'll show you, we got the liquid down below. How pretty is that? If anyone likes pretty pink things, you definitely want to make this recipe. So, I don't know if you can see that, but there is a little liquid. I just stirred it up a bit. And this is what you're left with. So, I'm going to stir it up and let it sit for just a couple more minutes. Okay, at this point you should have about 4.5 cups of the juice left over. I'm a little bit short, but we're just gonna go with it. Now at this point, this is when I start to get my canner going, getting it warmed up. Over here I got the juices going, and this is when I'm going to turn the heat on the juice. I'm going to stir in 6 tablespoons of the regular dry pectin. You need to bring that to a boil until the boiling won't stop by stirring it down. Okay, just a little side canning tip. I believe this is a 2-gallon bucket that I fill with sugar every year for canning. It's just so convenient to have one bucket just for sugar when you're doing jellies and relishes. They take a lot of sugar. Okay, next up is sugar. It calls for 6 cups of sugar. You're going to add these in and dissolve the sugar, and then you want to boil it for 1 minute until all the sugar is dissolved. And last but not least, you always want to try and skim off that foam off the top. Now the recipe calls to use 1/2 pint jars. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all of mine are already in my pantry filled with herbs, so I didn't really have any jelly jars handy at this moment. So I am just going to use pint jars for my jelly. After sterilizing these, I had to fill the jars up and just leaving a 1/4 inch headspace. Now remember, I was a little short with my rhubarb, so I wasn't quite able to get the full 3 pints here, which is kind of a bummer. But I'm just going to go ahead and process the 2 jars and then just put that 3rd jar in my fridge and just use that right away. And for 1/2 pint jars, the recipe does call to process these in the water bath canner for 10 minutes. Okay, you guys, that was it. Let me know what you thought, and thanks for coming along for this canning video. Hit the subscribe button down below if you haven't yet, because we're getting back on track. I think we're gonna be making these videos. There's gonna be a bunch more canning, gardening videos coming up. I will leave the link down below for the ball canning cookbook if you guys are interested in that and getting this recipe through there. So thanks for coming, guys. I will see you next time.